Hello everyone, welcome back to YK Reviews. Welcome back to the Nightmare on Elm Street retrospective series as we're moving into Nightmare on Elm Street 5. So let's get into it here. Now, when it comes to Nightmare on Elm Street 5, like I said, in terms of like part 4, I feel like these couple of movies are very like hit and miss when it comes to the storyline, when it comes to like the dream sequences here, when it comes to like balancing everything. And in terms of like the direction that they're going with when it comes to like the title of this is called The Dream Child. So going through like the pregnancy of Alice and all of that direction. So not a huge fan. But we'll deep dive into everything here. But if you are new to the channel, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button. We're doing the reviews for all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, along with the tier ranking coming on October 31st. So this coming Tuesday, we'll be having the tier ranking video for all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. But there's also going to be a Chucky Season 3 series review. Since the series is 4 episodes, keep an eye out on the channel. It's coming either later on today or probably tomorrow. So definitely subscribe so that you're not missing out on that. And hit that like button to get the eyes on these retrospective reviews. Again, appreciate all the support coming our way here. But in terms of the movie itself, so like the opening sequence, we've got Alice, so you see her basically having a good time with Dan. They're getting busy. We see her taking a shower, but then all of a sudden, she's in like the shower cubicle, the water's just leveling up and sort of drowning her. So what she does is she decides to jump out of the shower, but by doing that, she ends up in this sewer. As she's walking along this sewer, she sees the character that we got introduced in Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, the nun, Freddy Krueger's mother. So we come to see her and she's surrounded by the 100 deranged men, that is, and we get like a bit of an understanding of how she got locked up in there, a little bit of backstory when it comes to that. Then all of a sudden she wakes up and she just sees Freddy Krueger sleeping next to her in the bed, ending that dream sequence. So then we get back to reality. We get introduced to the new set of characters that we're going to be following. So you've got Alice, you've got Dan, they're in this graduation ceremony, and then we get the people that got replaced by the previous movie, so like Rick and Debbie and Sheila from the previous movie are now being replaced by the new set of characters that we're going to be following here. And we also see that Alice's dad has now recovered from his alcoholism that he was in the previous movie. So like the drunk dad aspect has now been taken out of the movie for this certain character. So a little bit of a character development for him. So as they're having this celebration, the graduation, stuff like that, they're outside. I believe they were outside a church or the school or whatever it was. But Alice then ends up in this playground, this park area, where she sees these girls doing the jumping rope, skipping rope thingy that you call it when you were a kid, singing my favorite song that I've heard so many times while doing these retrospective reviews. My wife's also favorite alarm song as well, the 1-2 Freddy's Coming For You. But she ends up going into the forest and ends up being in this church section part where she's seeing Freddy's mum have the baby. So the doctors are like surrounding her. She's laying in this bed. The baby is coming out and they call it like an abomination. They call it a creature of God. And the baby literally just jumps out and like crawls away, like runs out of the room. Like, this is the type of wacky shit that you're seeing in these movies lately. Freddy, the baby, this creature baby, runs out of the room as Alice is following him. They end up in this church. Basically, the baby creature, the baby Freddy, just screams itself into existence. And this baby creature goes into the jumper, the classic jumper of Freddy Krueger, going from a baby into an adult, creating and returning Freddy Krueger, yelling that amazing line of just saying, "It's a boy." Now, I haven't mentioned this in any of the previous reviews, however, but when it comes to Freddy's resurrections, there really is no logical explanation whatsoever. I guess you could say that with all the classic slashers like Jason and Michael Myers and Freddy Krueger here, but with this one, it just tops the cake of the baby just screaming itself into existence, into the adult version of himself. But then you get Freddy's mum entering that church, rescuing Alice, telling her to like rescue her from this prison that she's in, this earth prison there, and the dream sequence ends for Alice, but Freddy Krueger is now back in town. So she wakes up running late for her shift. She needs Dan to get her to work. Dan is falling asleep at the wheel, and you get this amazing, and I mentioned this in these retrospective reviews for Nightmare on Elm Street, the practicality, the practical effects for it. So you've got Dan, he's driving this truck. Freddy Krueger's appearing and turns the truck against Dan, using this practicality of like converging into him. Dan ends up crashing the truck, flying out through the window. As he gets up though, he goes into this motorbike, and the motorbike just again morphs into Freddy Krueger. Like you see Freddy Krueger's face forming into the motorbike, and it just ends up taking over Dan and the motorbike, where the motorbike ends up crashing into a truck, blowing up, ends up killing Dan. So now Dan is out of the equation here, which causes Alice to wake up in the hospital. She realizes that Dan is dead, but then we also find out that Alice is pregnant with a baby, thanks to her friend Yvonne, who also plays a vital role in the movie later on. And she realizes that Freddy is back. She tries to tell these new crew, her new friends, about it, but they're not buying it, which Freddy takes advantage of as he's taking out his characters one by one. So you've got the character, the one that her mother is wanting her to be the model. So you've got this crazy sequence of this girl, she's like in this dinner party with her mother and her mother's friends and stuff like that. Then Freddy arrives, he's force feeding her, like her face just gets swollen up, and in just some disturbing fashion she ends up dying in this process. And then you've got Alice's other friend who gets sucked into Freddy's old house, and so Freddy's taking him on in this dream sequence. But however, Alice manages to save him in time as he's taking on Freddy, as Freddy's trying to attack him. She comes in and manages to enter the dream and save him before he dies. But then you've got the one friend that's dead, him getting attacked by Freddy. And so then throughout the movie you get like little sequences where you've got Alice confronting this little boy who's called Jacob, and we come to find out that Jacob is actually who's Alice's son in the future. And then you also have this little subplot about the whole pregnancy where she's going crazy about Freddy Krueger. Dan's parents are also getting involved because they want to take care of the child, adopt it as if it's its own. So you have that whole sequence of events going on with the little subplot there. So then as we're closing into the movie here, Freddy goes after Alice's remaining two friends. So you've got Yvonne, who's in this swimming pool, she's about to dive, but then you've got Freddy messing with her mind, messing with the diving board that she's on, because like the diving board starts to bend and like, about to close in on her. So he basically forces her to jump off the diving board into the swimming pool, but she ends up going down this long slide. Alice arrives just in time to save Yvonne, needing Yvonne to go into the church to go look for Freddy Krueger's mother that we got in the beginning of the movie. So while she ends up saving Yvonne, you've got the other friend, Mark, I believe his name was, who is in this dream sequence now with Freddy. He turns into this superhero comic book character that he's been drawing throughout the movie. So his Phantom guy, I honestly can't remember the name of this comic book character that he's drawing, and then Freddy turns into this super Freddy. So you sort of get like a comic book strip movie based on this. So the guy starts shooting Freddy's able to survive, but Freddy turns him into the size of like a paper, like thin as a paper, and just starts slicing him with his claws, killing this guy off. So then we get to the third act, the final sequence, or the final battle of the movie. So you've got Alice taking on Freddy. In the beginning part, she ends up pushing him, so you've got the sequence where it's similar to like the beginning of the movie with the whole mental asylum patients all there. She ends up pushing Freddy there. They start attacking him and sort of looking like they're ripping up his body, but he ends up easily surviving that because you can't really dent him in the dream world. So then we get that little boy that we've been following throughout the movie, Jacob. He's with Freddy. Alice is also there. She's trying to convince Jacob to come with her. So when they do reunite, you just got this disturbing sequence of Freddy going inside Alice. He's trying to like come out of Alice, and that's where you've got in the meantime Yvonne finding the ghost or the corpse of Freddy's mother there. She then appears in the sequence where the dream sequence taking place with Freddy and Jacob and Alice going on. She ends up convincing Jacob to go to his mother, Alice that is. So Jacob goes to try to save Alice. By doing so, he turns into this gremlin little devil kid where you see him with this kind of voice of Freddy Krueger telling Freddy to leave Alice, let's go after him. And then all of a sudden he's got the classic Freddy tongue. That big ass tongue comes out and just kind of just pokes Freddy in the stomach, just causing him for all the bodies to release. So you've got like that girl's swollen face coming out, the other guy's, Mark I believe his name was, his face to come out, like all these souls and bodies leaving Freddy once again. And by doing all of that, he ends up turning into that little gremlin creature of God once again, and Jacob then turns into a baby. So then both these little babies creatures then get picked up by their mothers. So then you've got Alice picking up Jacob, Freddy's mum picks up the creature Freddy, both going back into the womb, ending the movie there, or ending the final battle, and that's how they defeat Freddy. Now I gotta say, with like the last two movies, like Dream Part 5 and Part 4, I feel like the way they just killed off Freddy kind of was a bit lame, or not as strong as like the earlier movies. Like for example, this one is just a tongue touching him. The previous movie with a mirror releasing all the souls just really felt underwhelming when it comes to the final sequence, or when it comes to how they defeat Freddy. But then as Freddy Krueger's mum's leaving, Freddy's arm comes out of her stomach, basically confirming that he's still alive or that he's going to be returning soon. And then you just get the final closing shot of Alice, her dad, and Yvonne in the park, sort of having a picnic with the baby. So she's had the baby in real life, closing up the movie and finishing off part 5 of the franchise. Now, like I said, not as strong as like some of the other previous movies, but still a fun, entertaining movie nonetheless. It definitely upped the campiness. The problem is that with these movies is that you get these new characters, you know they're going to be killed off, you're not too invested with it, so you know that they're going to be killed off one way or another. And when it comes to like the dream sequences or the kind of deaths that they had, wasn't as strong as like the previous 4 movies. But like I had an enjoyable time watching it or rewatching it again. But I want to know your thoughts, so let me know in the comment section down below if you have seen part 5. Do you enjoy it? Are you a fan of it? Do you hate it? Let me know all of that in the comment section down below. But that about wraps it up for part 5, the retrospective review of Nightmare on Elm Street. Like I mentioned, we're going to be doing part 6, and we're also going to be doing the Chucky season 3 series review in the next couple of days, so definitely keep an eye out on the channel, subscribe so you're not missing out on those videos. But thank you so much for watching, thank you so much for listening. This is YK Reviews.